Hi everybody, I'm Charlie Hagan, and this is On Air, My Beatles Collection. Some of you may know me from Facebook. My Facebook page is My Beatles Collection. And on these videos here on YouTube, I'd like to show you things from all around my collection here. This is a large room with memorabilia and box sets and CDs and vinyl. So from time to time, I'll do a video and I'll take one item and I'll try to show you an in-depth look at it for a few minutes. So today's item is this box, The Beatles, From Us to You. And what this is primarily is interviews and spoken word as opposed to music. There is some music in here, but for the most part, it's interviews. I'd like to show you this box in detail. When you open it up, the first thing that you find is a t-shirt, not particularly well done, but anyway, it's a t-shirt. I have never worn that t-shirt, and I see now that it's an XL, but not something I ever wore. It just goes with the box set. Now, those of you who know me personally or know me through Facebook or through YouTube know that I'm a sucker for box sets. And there's a couple of things that would be even more attractive to me, bonus points, if you will. One would be color vinyl, another would be a nice booklet. This one has the latter, a nice booklet. So this is a high gloss, really lots of pages, nice pictures, and it really is a book of pictures. So and also there are pages that describe the contents of a specific disc in here. And these are CDs, by the way. I neglected to mention that. So it's a multi-CD set. But I'll just focus on the book for now. There are pictures from all eras of the Beatles, and the interviews are from all different eras. So they start in the 60s, and some of them go well into the 80s. So that's the booklet. I really like the booklet. And then this is what you see underneath the booklet inside the box. So there's 5 separate CD jewel cases. And in each jewel case, there are 2 CDs. So you'll see here it says disc 1, and then you flip it over and there's disc 2. And of course on the back, it tells you what the contents are. It also tells you that on the back of the card. So there's a styrofoam inserts here that hold everything in place. And as I said, you've got 5 jewel cases, so 10 CDs. So that's the contents of the book. I'm going to close up the box and refer to the back and just give you a quick overview of what's on here. So disc 1 is titled John Lennon. And it talks about the Beatles in Australia, the press conference from June 13, 1964. And then John, there's a solo interview that he did at the Southern Cross Hotel. There's a later London interview from 1968, June 1968, discussing the National Theatre production of In His Own Right and other topics. And then there's a Canadian press conference from December 20th, 1969. And John and Yoko discuss having their hair cut. Then there's another Lennon interview and a peace rally and so on. So that's disc 1, and that's the John Lennon disc. Disc 2 is Paul McCartney. And there's a Munich press conference in June of 66. Paul discusses LSD in 1967. Paul and Linda are interviewed the day after their wedding in March of 1969. Paul and Linda do a Scottish interview for the press in 1972. There's another segment on the Wings tour of Australia from 1975, and so on. The end of that, this disc here is Paul does a brief appearance at Linda's press conference, and he talks about the Beatles anthology. So that's from 1994, of course. And then there's a world tour press conference at Iowa in 1990. So that's disc 1 and 2. And then disc 3 is George Harrison. And I won't go through all these, but there's his interview when he married Patty, the death of Brian Epstein, George with Eric Clapton during the Japan tour. That was a press conference. That was from 1991. And there's another track, the same thing, part 2, also December 1991. And then there's a disc 4, which is Ringo. And when he arrived in Australia with Brian Epstein on June 15th, 1964, there's an interview with Ringo's parents. Haven't checked that one out yet. That's from 64. Then there's his tonsillitis operation. There's some discussion about that from December 64. And so on. Let's see. All the way out to later on in 1969, there's an interview on the set of The Magic Christian when he was filming that movie. There's an interview in Los Angeles, 1976. And there's actually a press conference for the opening of the Brasserie restaurant on October 6, 1986. Disc 5 is Lennon again. And there's a discussion of early Beatles tracks. And so John talks about old tunes, and then there's a snippet of Sweet Georgia Brown. There's an interview at an airport, Darwin Airport, then Sydney Airport. There's a reference to the song Ya Ya, then reference to the song Let's Dance, and lots of little snippets where John talks about his early influences and early Beatles tracks. Then disc 6 is pretty much the same. It's early Beatles tracks, part 2. There's a bit of Cry for a Shadow in there, Why Can't You Love Me Again, and various other snippets of John being interviewed. Disc 7 is part 3 of that, and let's see. John talks about What I Say. That's the Ray Charles song. Take out some insurance on my baby, on me. Take out some insurance. It says here, but it's on my baby. And some of the stuff from the 70s. Lennon on positive projection. Lennon on artist roles and women. Lennon on mother and life's work. So that's all part 3 of the early Beatles discussion with John Lennon. That's disc 7. Disc 8 is John and Yoko, part 1. And that's various things from Canada, with comedian Tom Smothers, with Al Capp, the cartoonist. And then part 2 of that is disc 9, press conferences at the University of Toronto on Wednesday, December 17th, 1969. Of course, that would be when he was in Toronto to do the live piece, what we came to know as live piece in Toronto. And let's see, that's pretty much it there. There's another piece with Marshall McLuhan on Saturday, December 20th, 1969. That's all disc 9. And disc 10 has a 1996 version of My Bonnie, credited to Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers. Money, credited to Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers. Mess Around, also credited to Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers. Skinny Minnie, credited to Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers. Johnny Be Good, credited to Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers. I Would Only Smile, credited to Denny Lane with Paul and Linda McCartney. Send Me the Heart, credited to Denny Lane with Paul and Linda McCartney. Blackbird, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. Mull of Kintyre, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. Go Now, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. Within Walls, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. Children, Children, dedicated to Denny Lane with Wings. Band on the Run, dedicated to, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. Bluebird, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. The Note You Never Wrote, credited to Denny Lane with Wings. And then there's a Kenny Everett interview with John, Paul, and Ringo, which was recorded June 6, 1968 at EMI. Seems like an odd track to add to that disc 10, which is up until that point all music. So that's the highlights of what is on this back panel here, and also on the booklets in the book itself. If you want to read this, hopefully it's clear enough that if you pause it, you can take your time and read it and see all the stuff that I left off. But anyway, that's a little peek at this Beatles box from us to you. Like I said, I'm a sucker for box sets. It has a nice booklet. You know, you don't listen to these interviews very often. You know, it's not really like a 10 CD box set of music. So, you know, it does get some demerits in that department. And it didn't cost a fortune either. But I still like to have it, and it looks good over there with all those other box sets that I have. And there's some hidden behind there that you can't even see. So you see a space there down at the bottom. Sorry, I'm trying to point to it. And this is where that goes. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please hit like on the YouTube page. If you didn't like it, then you can hit the thumbs down button. If you'd like to see more videos in the future and get notices about them, hit subscribe. There are several other videos already up on the page, and so you can also scroll those if you want to take a look at the others. And certainly in the comments, if you want to comment about how much you liked it or how much you hated it, or other things that you'd like to talk about, or other things that from the room here that you'd like to see. I got lots of memorabilia and books and CDs and box sets and vinyl. So anything that you might have a curiosity about, maybe you've heard about it, but you haven't actually seen it up close, fairly good chance I might have it. So certainly you're welcome to make your suggestions, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again in the future. Thanks a lot.